A bird leaves the ground, and it does not come back down for 10 months. Not to rest, not to sleep, not even for a single night. It eats in the air, it drifts in the air, and somehow, impossibly, it sleeps in the air. For most of human history, scientists refused to believe this was real. It broke everything we understood about sleep. Because sleep is supposed to make you vulnerable. Sleep is supposed to require stillness. Sleep is supposed to happen somewhere safe. So how can an animal sleep while flying thousands of feet above the ground, with nothing beneath it but open sky? For decades, this was treated as a myth, a story told by birdwatchers that no serious researcher could prove. Then we finally caught one in the act. Welcome back to Bird Theory. Subscribe before you leave, because today we're exploring one of the strangest discoveries in all of biology. How a bird sleeps while flying, what scientists found when they finally measured its brain mid-flight, and why this single discovery forced us to rewrite what we thought sleep even was. Stay until the end, because the final part explains something disturbing. This same ability may exist in more animals than we ever imagined, possibly even in ways that quietly affect us. Let's start with the bird at the center of this mystery. It's called the common swift, a small, dark, scythe-winged bird you have almost certainly seen without realizing what you were looking at. They scream across summer skies in fast, tight groups, then vanish. What you don't see is where they go. When a young swift leaves its nest for the first time, something extraordinary happens. It takes off, and it may not land again for nearly a year. Think about that for a moment. No branch, no rooftop, no ground. For up to 10 months, the swift's feet touch nothing at all. It feeds on tiny insects drifting in the air. It drinks by skimming the surface of lakes without ever stopping. It even gathers floating material for future nests while still in flight, snatching feathers and seeds carried up on the wind. Everything a swift needs, it finds without landing. It bathes in the rain. It rises and falls with the weather. It crosses entire continents and seas without a single pause on solid ground. A swift may travel a distance equal to flying to the moon and back several times over the course of its life, almost all of it without rest in the way we understand rest. But the question that haunted scientists was simpler and stranger. When does it sleep? Because every animal we know of needs sleep. Deprive any creature of it long enough, and the body begins to fail. The mind slows. The reactions dull. A bird that stayed fully awake for 10 straight months should, by every rule we understood, simply collapse out of the sky. And yet swifts do not collapse. They return the following year, healthy and strong, ready to do it all again. So either they had found a way around sleep entirely, or they were sleeping somewhere we had never thought to look. The answer, it turned out, was hidden inside the brain. For years, the problem was technical. You cannot easily study a sleeping animal that never stops moving and never comes within reach. You cannot follow a swift into the open sky. You cannot wire it to a machine and watch it through the night. So scientists turned to a different animal first, a close enough relative in lifestyle, a bird whose sleeping brain could actually be measured in flight, the great frigatebird. These are enormous seabirds that soar over the ocean for days or even weeks at a time, searching for food across empty water with nowhere to land. They cannot rest on the waves. Their feathers are not waterproof enough to risk the sea. So if a frigatebird is going to sleep at all during these long journeys, it has only one option. It must do it in the air. Researchers managed to attach tiny devices to their heads, devices that recorded brain activity in the air. For the first time in history, we could see what a bird's brain was actually doing while it flew far out over open ocean. And here is where it gets strange. The frigatebirds were sleeping, not on land, not on water, in the air, mid-flight, while still soaring on the wind. But they were doing it in a way no human ever could. They were shutting down only half of their brain at a time. One hemisphere would drift into sleep, the other stayed fully awake. One eye closed, the other stayed open, watching the direction the bird was flying. This is called unihemispheric sleep. Half the brain rests, half the brain keeps the body alive. And the awake half was doing exactly what you'd expect. It controlled the open eye. It kept the bird on course. It watched for collisions and for other birds. The sleeping half, meanwhile, finally got the rest it needed. The bird was, in a very real sense, half asleep and half on guard at the exact same moment. But then researchers found something even stranger. Sometimes, both halves of the brain slept at once. Full sleep, total shutdown. Thousands of feet above the ocean, the bird was completely unconscious for a few seconds at a time, still gliding on the wind. It should have been a death sentence. And yet the bird kept flying. Its body held the glide. Its wings stayed set. And then it woke, as if nothing had happened, which raised an almost unbelievable possibility about how little sleep these birds actually need. Here's what truly stunned the scientists. While flying over the ocean, the frigatebirds slept for only around 40 minutes a day. Just brief bursts, snatched in tiny fragments, often during a slow upward glide on rising air. On land, the same birds slept for more than 12 hours. 12 hours on the ground, less than 1 hour in the air. The birds were not skipping sleep entirely. They were rationing it, surviving on a tiny fraction of their normal rest, for as long as the journey demanded, then recovering everything once they finally landed on solid ground. This changed something fundamental. For a long time, we believed sleep was rigid, a fixed need, a debt that always had to be repaid in full, or the body would break down without exception. But these birds revealed that sleep is far more flexible than we ever assumed. Under the right pressure, a brain can survive on shockingly little. It can divide itself in two. It can steal rest in seconds. It can bend the rules we thought were absolutely unbreakable. And the bird that started this entire mystery, almost certainly does something very similar in the open air, season after season. Now think about what that really means. We tend to imagine animals as simple, awake or asleep, on or off. But the truth is far more sophisticated than that. A bird's brain can hold two opposite states at once, resting and alert, unconscious and aware, all inside the same small skull, at the same moment. This is not just a curiosity about birds. It opens a much larger question. If sleep can be split, rationed, and reshaped this dramatically in one animal, what does that tell us about sleep everywhere else in the animal kingdom? Dolphins already sleep with one half of their brain at a time, so they don't drown beneath the surface. Some other birds do it in dangerous places to stay safe from predators while they rest. The pattern keeps appearing. The more carefully we look, the more often we find it, which forces an uncomfortable thought about ourselves. Humans cannot truly sleep with half a brain, but there are strange hints. People sleeping in an unfamiliar place for the first night often rest more lightly on one side of the brain than the other, as if part of us stays quietly on watch in a new environment. A faint echo of the same ancient survival system. We are not swifts. We are not frigatebirds. We cannot fly for 10 months without landing, and we cannot switch off one half of our mind while the other keeps watch. But the basic machinery of sleep, it turns out, may be far older and far stranger than we ever realized. A system that life has been quietly bending and reshaping for millions of years, long before our own brains ever existed. So the next time you see those small, dark birds screaming across the summer sky, remember what you're actually looking at. A creature that may not have touched solid ground in months. A creature sleeping in pieces, in motion, in the open air. A creature quietly doing something that should, by every rule we know, be completely impossible. Not because it broke the rules of biology, but because it revealed that the rules were never as simple as we believed. It was never about resistance. It was never about some special power. It was about a brain flexible enough to survive a journey that no resting body ever could. A bird, fast asleep. And still flying. Tell me in the comments, if you could shut down half your brain and stay half awake, what is the one task you'd finally get done while you slept? I read every comment, and I'll see you in the next one here on Bird Theory.